My name is Lowell Lytle. I act as the captain of the Titanic and have for the last 14 years, all around the world in exhibits. And my wife gave me a book. It's entitled The Titanic's Last Hero, about 14 years ago. And it's about a second-class passenger. There were a lot of heroes that night. Think of it. The Catholic priest giving the last rites to the very end. The band playing to the very end. The men standing back, letting the women and children aboard the lifeboats to the very end. Heroes all. But this one is special. This second-class passenger from Scotland, he was a Baptist minister on his way to Chicago to preach at Moody Memorial Church. He thought he would take the Lusitania, but changed his mind and decided to take the Titanic. While having an evangelistic program in Glasgow, Scotland, one of his parishioners overheard that he was going to take the Titanic and prayed about it. Went to the Reverend and said, "Reverend, I have an ominous feeling about that ship. Something bad's going to take place. And if you take the Lusitania, I'll even pay for your ticket." Reverend Harper thought about it and he said, "No, the Apostle Paul wouldn't run away from danger. If anything happens," he said, "I'm ready." And it happened. And when the ship started to go down, Reverend Harper's faith was tested. And that Baptist minister ran around the deck shouting, "Women and children and unsaved people, get aboard the lifeboats." He even took off his life vest and gave it to a man that was not a believer in Jesus Christ. He thought that'll give him some time to get his soul ready for eternity, because eternity was about to happen. His sister-in-law and daughter Nana were standing right next to him. They both survived. The sister-in-law overheard the Reverend when he gave that life vest to that man. He said, "Here, take this. I don't need it. I'm not going down. I'm going up." He's in the water now, 28 degrees. Salt water takes longer to freeze. You would last anywhere from 10 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on your will to live and how much body weight you had. But all the cries and the screams ended after 40 minutes. These people did not drown. They froze to death. One man survived in a lifeboat, lived in Detroit, Michigan. Later on in years, he said, "Every time I went to see the Detroit Tigers play, someone would hit a home run and the crowd would yell and scream." He said, "It's the same sound." He said, "I hated that sound." Reverend Harper's alone in the water now. He has no life vest. And a man drifted by on a piece of wood, and Reverend Harper shouted to the man, "Is your soul saved?" The man said, "No." Reverend Harper shouted, "Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved." The man drifted off into the dark, and later the current drew him back. And Reverend Harper again shouted to the man, "Are you saved yet?" And the man said, "I can't honestly say that I am." Reverend Harper's last words were, "Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved." And with that, the Reverend slipped under the water and went to that frozen, watery grave. There were 12 people pulled from the water that night. 6 of them lived. That man was one. And the story was told a few weeks later in Hamilton, Ontario, by that same man who said, "I listened to Reverend Harper's last message and became a believer in Jesus Christ with 2 miles of water beneath me." Titanic's last hero, Reverend John Harper. You can pick up the book at the Rockland Press, at earthlink.net, or at any bookstore.